It's July, so named because it was a month that Julius Caesar was born. And in celebrating this month of summer, welcome to our all-women program of Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo. We are at Cafe Kubuk this week, owned by Shana Dandania, a woman entrepreneur who pioneered conscious consumption in the restaurant industry. Also, on our People's Bank News capsule is the very first Sri Lankan female to become vice president in an international accounting body, SEMA. In Life in 60, the woman who pioneered a Sari library, Afra Saldin, shows us what she's got. On Let's Talk, we catch up with Charlene Pereira Stafford in Singapore, virtually of course, the very first Sri Lankan to cross Greenland's Arctic Circle Trail. And these four pioneering women also come together in Let's Talk to give their views on gender stereotyping. We also bring in today IFC Country Director for Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Amina Arif, and Combank Managing Director S. Ranganathan on news that gives Sri Lanka some good cred. So, on with the show. And so we begin with our People's Bank News capsule. The International Finance Corporation, or IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, gave a further boost to Sri Lanka when it signed a $50 million private placement with Commercial Bank, the largest private sector bank in Sri Lanka. These funds would support Commercial Bank's business expansion, and here to share the details is Commercial Bank's Managing Director, S. Ranganathan.
Globally, I think this is the first ever equity investment of a DFI after the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. This tier 1 capital, which is approximately 9.5 billion, will be used to support our business growth, which will in turn contribute to assist the government initiative to revive the economic development of this country. Since this is a sharp placement at an attractive premium, it adds value to our existing shareholders to regain higher price stability.
So there you heard of the IFC's support for Commercial Bank. And last week on Kaleidoscope, we featured John Keel's Holdings Chairman, Krishan Balendra, who let us know the details of the IFC $175 million infusion into JKH. So it is very clear that IFC seems to have immense confidence in Sri Lanka. And to briefly tell us about it, here's Amina Arif, IFC Country Manager for Sri Lanka and the Maldives.
Since the pandemic began, IFC's focus has been to provide targeted and rapid support to its member countries. Our intention is to try and minimize job losses and market disruption and destruction. Commercial Bank is the country's largest private sector lender, and at this time it is critical that the country's financial sector remains on a sound and stable footing. John Keel's is investing in the future. It's creating more jobs. It's creating more opportunities across their entire value chains. And, IFC's been in Sri Lanka for 50 years, and this is the time when we've stepped up when the country needs it the most. Partnerships matter. We are stepping up and showing our commitment to our long-standing partners like JKH and Commercial Bank.
The Colombo Stock Exchange gained a new chairman this week. Dumit Fernando, the chairman of Asia Securities Holdings and a member of the Economic Policy Steering Committee of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, succeeded Ray Abeyvardhana, who completed his 3-year tenure. And the stock market began July looking rather bearish, with foreign selling continuing. By Thursday this week, the indices moved down by 1.1% and daily turnover was slightly lower than last week at 1.4 billion rupees. And People's Bank, one of Sri Lanka's largest state-owned banks, celebrated its 59th anniversary this week. In marking that milestone of 59, the bank presented 59 Asvanna and 59 Saubhagya COVID-19 loans to support SMEs. This week, 2 Sri Lankan women pushed benchmarks. The first is Harvard alumni Kasturi Chellaraja Wilson, a true corporate dynamo who broke all stereotypes and broke glass ceilings in Sri Lankan boardrooms when she was appointed Group CEO of Hema's Holdings, becoming the first woman to lead a diversified conglomerate in Sri Lanka. And then we have Melanie Kanaka. She is the first Sri Lankan woman and the first woman outside the UK to be elected into this position in SEMA's 100-year history. A Fulbright scholar with an MBA from Emory University and a bachelor's first class from Sri Jayawardhanapura University, Melanie, a national swimmer in her time, had the rare distinction of officiating at the Centennial Olympics held in Atlanta. Melanie joined me for a quick chat earlier this week. How is SEMA adapting after COVID-19 to the world of work?
So at SEMA, we have taken a three-prong approach to do this. And that is, the first prong is that we focus on business resilience, which I think is the key to an environment such as now, when we have shrinking turnovers, cash and liquidity crunches, as well as extremely volatile working environments and business environments. And the second prong is actually digital transformation, where we have to rely on more mobile-based applications as well as the practicality of cloud-based accounting. And the third prong, I believe, is actually the skills required to actually, the softer skills of life, maybe the communication skills and what leaders are called upon to actually focus on being more empathetical, as well as being more adaptable, agile, creative and innovative to drive their businesses from afar off.
Coconut oil is making a comeback. Sri Lanka's confectionery industry, which uses palm oil to develop confectionery items, will soon be switching over to coconut oil. The move to locally produced coconut oil will save Sri Lanka around $75 million in foreign exchange. In Sri Lanka, restaurants are open again. However, post-COVID, nothing will ever be the same, especially for smaller establishments like Cafe Kumbuk, which is hosting us this week. Shana Dandenia's Cafe Kumbuk began as a university project in London and blossomed into a pioneering venture which focuses on conscious consumption. Judging by the awards Shana has received, including Cosmo's Under 35 listing and the fact that she has also opened +94 and Shrilax, a 5-bedroom bed and breakfast, Shana breaks norms and uses her creativity, which is her superpower, to go places. The painfully camera-shy Shana now joins me from her home ground Cafe Kumbuk, and I asked her how she manages to continue her ethos of conscious consumption even after COVID.
I think when it's ingrained in the business, as it is with ours, I think it's been quite easy to continue on that line. I think when the lockdown happened, obviously supplies and that kind of thing was quite difficult to get a hold of, but I think we need to keep going on the same line that we've been going for a while, and I think conscious consumption is the backbone of what we do here at Cafe Kumbuk.
Shana, COVID-19 has been very challenging for all industries, but when you look at yourself, what is the most important lesson you learned in these times?
To be patient and also to let things unfold as they will, because you can't be in control of everything all the time, and just to take it day by day.
The Gratian Prize shortlist was announced last week, and making the shortlist is Andrew Fidel Fernando, who was featured on Kaleidoscope a few weeks ago for his travelogue Upon a Sleepless Isle. The others who made the shortlist are Praveen Jayamana for his novel The Double Doorway, Upali Mahaliyana for Tom Tom Boy, and Vihanga Pereira for his book of poems, Sentimental Pieces, The Private Funeral, The Classical War. The winner will be announced on the 4th of July. Nadu Gill is only 10 years old and set a world record for solving multiplication and divisional problems in just 1 minute. His timing, 3 answers per second. And concluding our news capsule is another amazing woman, a fearless advocate for girls' education and women's rights. Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai graduated from Oxford University with a degree in philosophy, politics and economics, 8 years after being shot at by a Taliban fighter. That was our People's Bank News Capsule. We'll be back charging ahead with Charlene Pereira Stafford, as well as Melanie Kanaka, Shana Dandenia and Afra Saldin on Let's Talk.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
In the past decade, climate-related disasters have led to the loss of 700,000 lives, 1.7 billion people affected, and economic losses of 1.4 trillion US dollars. Coastal cities, especially those in Asia, suffer most, and women in these countries bear the brunt of the economic losses due to climate risk. And so began an expedition to the refrigerator of the world's largest island, Greenland, under the aegis of the UN's Her Planet Earth. A group of 10 absolutely courageous and fearless women from Moscow, Singapore, Hong Kong and Sri Lanka cycled 200 kilometers up and down hills, mountain passes, crackling lakes and fjords, slippery ice, mud and rock, in bitterly cold temperatures of minus 20 to 40 degrees for up to 10 hours a day for 6 days. And in this group of pioneering women was Charlene Pereira Stafford, the first Sri Lankan to cross Greenland's Arctic Circle Trail. The co-founder of Singapore-based leadership and development and executive leadership coaching outfit Stafford & Chan, she's a passionate rider who has participated in more than 30 Olympic distance races and biked from Colombo to Arugambe to support Sri Lanka's women in need. So I caught up with Charlene Pereira Stafford in Singapore, virtually of course, and asked her when she realized she had this passion to continue achieving.
I think everything is a journey. I've always been an outdoor person. I've enjoyed being healthy, being out in the environment. I love the forest. And so along the way, I've participated in many different types of activities. Before we did Greenland, I went to Kilimanjaro with a group of women. We climbed to the top. We used it as an opportunity to fundraise as well for, it was an orphanage that was based out of Tanzania. And we raised about 10,000 US dollars, which was fantastic for the orphanage with the climb. So we made the climb meaningful, not just to do something active. So I think in the same way, when this opportunity came along, it was not even a year later, it was about 6 months later, one of my friends, Judith, who was with me on Kilimanjaro, mentioned this trip coming up with Her Planet Earth and doing a cycling trip to the Arctic. So I've always done a lot of cycling. I still do a lot of cycling. And I jumped at the idea because I love the idea of, okay, doing something different. Who gets to cycle in the Arctic? So this is an opportunity. It was a great cause, awareness around climate, and especially for women impacted by climate.
So there were 10 women on
Yes.
this cycling trail. What was the camaraderie like?
You know what? It was fantastic. Honestly, I look back on that and I think, if all the stars aligned in that COVID hit. We left on March 3rd. Our flight was full to Copenhagen. On the 4th, we arrived in Greenland, Kaleidoscope. We were there for 6 nights. We cycled. We arrived in Sissimut, and then that's when we get first connection to the world, and we're like, oh my goodness, what has happened? We flew back to Copenhagen, and my plan was to spend a week in Copenhagen. We had to change all our plans within 24 hours, get back to Singapore. Airports were shutting down around the world. It was chaos. And what was amazing, along with all of that working, was just how well 10 people got on. I mean, seriously, it was fantastic, phenomenal, supportive. It was tough. There were a lot of challenges. We were staying in small spaces. There's no showers. Toilets are very basic. It didn't matter. I think we all just supported each other, helped. It just did it. Just got on with the common vision, which was to get to the end, fundraise, enjoy a beautiful country, and the scenery was magnificent. So camaraderie was amazing.
You do a lot of work. You do a lot of work with women. I notice it's women's empowerment, giving women entrepreneurs space, even joining women on women-only expeditions. You've also cycled for Women in Need as a fundraiser. What drives you to actually look at women's issues only?
Okay, I'd like to say for myself, I like helping anybody and everybody. And in my business with corporate training, a lot of our, whether I do executive leadership coaching or I'm doing the workshops, one of my passions about doing this is the opportunity to meet people, to make a difference in their life, they in mine. The women piece has come along. It was not something that was really on my mind, but it's come along the way. And I work with some amazing leaders, and especially one in Sri Lanka who really believes in developing women. So he gives me a lot of potential female leaders to develop. And that's when I realized that I love doing it. And I love to be able to support and help women. But of course, having said that, I also like to help and support men. It just so happens that this gives an extra cause, I suppose. And personally, I believe that if you look at underprivileged women especially, they are the backbone of society, aren't they? And we can educate women. All the numbers will say that. If we educate women, give them their livelihood, they definitely take care of the family. They'll make sure their family moves on to better opportunities. So why not? That fuels the passion even more.
Now, I also asked all the women featured on our show what 3 factors have pushed them to achieve what they did, if gender stereotyping is still prevalent, and how we can change that stereotyping. Here's what they said.
Firstly, I believe is putting others before self. I have been involved with the SEMA fraternity for a long time, focusing purely on member engagement and developing of people. Secondly, I think it is a focused passion to reach particular objective. And thirdly, it's really to do the right thing and to have a set of ethical and value set that is honorable.
One of them would be the support of my family and friends. I think that's been really important and key, you know. I think the second thing would probably be my ambition. And third is, I think, work drive, the drive to want to dive in head first and, take a risk.
The opportunity to revolutionize the way saris were reused, to make expensive clothing accessible to everyone, and to create a group of like-minded women who advocate the sustainable use of clothing.
A love of the outdoors, making a difference in my life and somebody else's life, having fun and meeting like-minded people.
Not more than half the state parliamentarians today are women. It is just a matter of 16% of the state leaders are women. If you look at the not-for-profit organizations, all the top seats are held by only 20% of them being female. And let us get closer to home. At SEMA, with our over 100-year history, today we only have 2 female past presidents. So I guess these figures speak for themselves.
Yeah, I think it does, and in the restaurant sector, I think definitely there are more women in roles of leadership. However, personally, I'd like to see more women come into the teams at a more root level, and I think that we can do that by empowering more women and instilling the confidence in them to do so.
We certainly live in a man's world, but I think women of today are more empowered to find their own seat at the table, even if they haven't been left one.
You know, I was brought up by my mother and father treating each other as equals, in that they didn't always agree, but there was always a healthy debate and discussions around a dinner table. They were both strong. Both my mom and dad were very strong in their own right. And they brought me up to believe that anything is possible.
That's a hard one. I think the onus is really on the current leaders, the current female leaders, because the stereotype, to break it, we have to show result and show achievement. So it is only by sheer dedication, hard work, perseverance, and actually rising above the levels to show that we can do it. And that's the only way that we can break that stereotype.
I think we need to empower more women to take roles in the restaurant industry especially, and support them in doing so. Empowering them and making sure that they have all the skills they need to kind of go far in this industry.
Personally, I've seen women successfully head their own startups and their own businesses, but I think now it's time for employers to start recognizing women for their contributions and support them in much more senior roles of their organizations.
I think education is one, empowering women and men to believe that they can make a difference. Men do a really good job of helping each other. We know that in the day-to-day world. And I think us women can do more to help each other too, and support each other to get ahead in whatever we do in life. If we all take one step towards a greater good.
She believed she could, and so she did. That's the ethos these 4 leading women have followed to break barriers and not let anything stand in their way. Thank you, Charlene Pereira Stafford, Melanie Kanaka, Shana Dandania, and Afra Saldin. And Afra is next with a glimpse of the Sari library in Life in 60. So here's a woman who has taken the concept of the sharing economy by the horns with the Sari Library, Sri Lanka's first online platform for rentable occasion wear saris. Founder Afra Saldin takes you on a tour of the Sari Library.
We are Sri Lanka's first online platform for rentable occasion wear saris. With over 100 saris in our library, we have partnered with some amazing women who have brought their own closets to you through a suppliership initiative. This allows them to lend their saris through us and earn part of the profits from each of those sari rentals. Kind of like Uber, but with saris. We believe our business will curb unnecessary consumption, help increase the useful life of a sari, as well as make a stand on some of the disruptive technologies of the fast fashion industry. More importantly, we want to help fashionable yet eco-conscious women gain access to a wide variety of pre-loved saris at a fraction of their original prices.
That being said, the greenest way to dress yourself is to use what you have with care and wear what you already own. If not, that's where we come in.
Lots of positive spins on that. You have an unlimited wardrobe of saris. The life cycle of a sari is optimized. Suppliers make money, and you become a part of that army of environmentally conscious women fighting for the survival of planet Earth. Thank you very much, Afra Saldin, for joining us in Life in 60. So that's it for this week. We say thank you to Cafe Kumuk for hosting us. If you want to give us any suggestions, any feedbacks, or even stories you'd like to see, please email us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com. Also, if you like to watch Let's Talk, Life in 60, or our news capsule clips, you'll find it on our playlist on YouTube. Subscribe to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo and join us weekly otherwise. So until next week, make sure you're masked as you make your way out the door. Now here's your Kaleidoscope takeaway. You don't have to be anti-man to be pro-woman. If you'd like to watch the full programs of Kaleidoscope, log on to our YouTube channel, Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo.